So Titus,
Cool.
thank you very, very much for agreeing to be briefly interviewed.
Of
And
course, no worries.
I have to say you're looking really good in spite of the fact that you have a power outage right now. How have you managed that?
Well, I decided I had two lights that I could use, why not just make it look extra good if I can. So that would be
Uh,
nice.
that's great. So, you've got the skills and you've also got the attitude to make the plan.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you graduated from Riverstone just what, like 10 months ago. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I wanted to just catch up with what you've been doing, because I think that your story makes a great illustration of the principles of SDE. So
Brilliant.
yeah, so firstly, let's talk briefly about your diploma. I think you majored in IT and product photography.
Yeah, it was IT and like media studies, so it's sort of the
Media
group
studies.
of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And how did you learn all of the things that you majored in?
So for IT, I was sort of always interested in computers and learning about them, and I had an older brother who knew a bit about it, but otherwise it was just him and myself in the family who knew much about like the technical side to computers. Um, and it was sort of the fact that I wanted to do things, but I couldn't do them without knowing what I needed to know. So I sort of learned what I needed and then ended up needing to fix things here and there, and then just end up learning more and more and more. The sort of most of the process of how that went is wanting to do something, not being able to do it, and then sort of figuring it out and teaching myself.
So you never went to computer course lesson, computer science, what?
No, I never.
No. But in your diploma evaluation from a professional in the field working at a high level in a bank, he said you could get an N+ or an A+ certificate basically on what you already know.
Yeah,
So
you did say that, yeah.
so that's quite interesting, because that's also not really high school level, is it?
No, it's even above that.
Yeah. So the other thing you majored in?
The media studies. So yeah, the media studies, that was it's sort of amalgamation of different things. It's like the photography, it's like the digital design, it's a few things there. That I learned with the photography. I always liked capturing moments, and always seemed like I looked at things and thought that looks amazing. I want to capture it. So like when I was younger, we got the secondhand camera from like a secondhand store, and it wasn't the greatest, but like I could still use it and it would still work fine. And then I spent quite a lot of time taking photos for like the next year or two, and then it sort of died off. But then more recently at Riverstone, another member, Kieran, got a camera, like a more modern one, a DSLR, which has a mechanical mechanism with a mirror compared to just digital. And him getting that and talking about it got sort of sparked my interest again, and I got very invested and got myself a camera and some lenses and whatnot, and really got into it even more. And it was quite fun being able to sort of express that creativity that I hadn't really before. And the digital design, I just spent time with like various different things. Like sometimes friends needed something and they didn't really know anyone to contact, so they would ask if I knew anything, because I knew general things about computers, so they were just curious if I knew. So I would help them with that. Or I dabbled in just like making YouTube videos or like gaming stuff, because I did that. So I was making like logos or various different things with that, and sort of grew my skills with that a little bit, video editing as well.
So it's really quite a combination of just, sort of following your own interests, being inspired by what other people are doing at Riverstone, that kind of cross-pollination that happens, and being able to play with the real stuff instead of doing exercises or, you know, sort of simulation type learning things, but actually just doing the real thing a lot for different people. So
I think that definitely helped. I was having fun doing it. You learn so much more, and you enjoy the process a lot more as well. I mean, when you're forced to do something, you generally, there's not, even if you want to do it, the fact that there's pressure of having to do it will deter you a bit, no matter what. So being able to just like that, I didn't have to do it, and I enjoyed doing it. I ended up doing it way more than I would have done it if I had to do it, type of thing.
Right. Okay, which also explains how you got so much more experience. So I'm curious, given that you could have really gone for the low-hanging fruit and gotten the IT certificate, which, I mean, I looked up, you know, the course would have been like 10,000 Rand and you didn't have to do that. Why didn't you get those certificates?
Well, although IT was a major of mine, and I did have a fair bit of experience with it, it wasn't a major interest per se. It was something that I could do and I could see myself doing, but it's not something I had fun with as much as like the creative side with photography or those type of things. So I decided to sort of focus more on that. And then at the same time with the photography, I was also interested with the One Riverstone group making a game, which is also quite cool because it also it involves kind of both, because it's the computer side with the programming, but then also the level design and the art and stuff is more creative. So I thought that was also quite cool, and so I did those for a while.
And you're still involved with that group at the moment?
Not currently, no. I got a message from a friend of mine saying that they needed some extra staff at a company called John O' Wheels, where they produce truck bodies, and they need someone in the design office to model and do the 3D models of the trucks and everything that then go to be produced. So they said in like 3 months' time if I was interested to try learn the program and give it a shot. So I thought it would be interesting. So I installed the program and I watched some tutorials, and I found it pretty cool. It was something I never tried before, but it was quite cool trying to put in the dimensions, take an object that you have in your hand and like accurately produce it in a program that then can be gone and made and whatnot. So then I spent 3 months learning the program, watching videos, whatnot. They gave me some like random objects to try model and whatnot. And then in June, I went in for an interview type thing. And they wanted to sort of see how it would go. So they gave me a working interview, which is for 2 weeks. And then I basically worked there for 2 weeks, figuring out how they do things there, sort of getting a bit of a feel of it. And so they could sort of also see how I would do. And then after that, they signed me for a 3-month probation, which is where I'm still in now currently, and I think on the second month. And I've been working there for now 2 months, and it's been going well. Yeah.
Great. So this is something that you hadn't done before?
No, I never touched 3D modeling programs before. I never thought I would be interested in it until I touched it, but it was actually quite interesting.
So you didn't you didn't sign up for a course, you didn't pay money, you just taught yourself because you know how to do that?
Yeah, I just taught myself, again, watched YouTube videos, and if I was really stuck, then I may ask a friend, the friend who works with it, hey, how the hell do you do this thing? And then they sort of gave me some insight on the different like ways you can use the tools, because it's very there's many different ways to sort of do one thing in the program. But yeah,
again, SDE, education by conversation, experiment and play, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So this isn't something that you imagined doing this time last year. It's a completely new thing, and it came up and you were able to jump on it, and you liked it, so you flowed with it, and now you're there, and now you're doing it.
Yeah, great. Pretty much. I didn't even know about it a year ago.
Yeah. And who knows where you'll be next year? Maybe you'll be still loving this job. And who knows? How do you feel about sort of your future? Do you feel it's sort of something you'll be able to just keep surfing, or do you think you've just been extremely lucky?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm enjoying it, and I look forward to learning more, because they not only am I sort of working with the modeling part, but I'm also doing what they call the nesting and the bending simulations of the production, which is very basically the parts that we make in the 3D model program can then be flattened to a flat design. Then that gets sent to the PC that does the nesting. And then we nest those parts on specific sheet sizes of metal that then we go get cut. And then the parts that need bending will go to a bending machine. And before it goes through that process, I take the parts that need to be bent and I run them through the simulation of the bending that comes from the machine, the software that they have. And basically that's to make sure that the tools are right for the thickness of material. If you can bend that part, because not every like drafter is what they call people who 3D model. Not every drafter will know exactly if one part can be bent by the machine or not. So then it's to test that. And it also updates the size of the part to accommodate for the bends, because the software they use to model it doesn't do that either. So while I've been there, I've been learning that as well, which the bending simulations was something completely new to them as well. They didn't do it before I got there, and they thought it'd be an opportunity to start doing it, and then I could start doing that as well. So sort of learned with that. And funny enough, with this program, there is nothing on the internet for how you're supposed to do things. They've made it very good job at not allowing like people to make much content on it. So it was basically just trial and error and figuring it out and like going through things and like messing around. So that was that took a little while, but it was also quite interesting.
Oh, yeah, beautiful. So you just really had to play with it and not be daunted by getting it wrong, not be daunted by failure, but just sort of have that persistence and that experimentation and just keep going with it. Stunning.
Yeah.
So is there any advice that you have for the ever anxious parents who are always worried about what will happen to their kids if they stay in SDE and they don't do a matric or they don't go to university, etc.?
So I think I would like to say is that as long as you find, as long as your kid can have the space to find what they're passionate about and that they can follow it, I don't see how that can go wrong. And I feel like having the freedom with self-directed education and learning and like a Sudbury environment allows for that more than other environments like public schooling or whatnot is very restrictive. And having sort of the free will to do what you want and try things allows you to find what you want to do without that pressure that I was talking about earlier.
But I was also quite interested in that people often think of that in terms of they'll find the one thing they're passionate about and then they'll do that. Whereas what I also love about your story is that your story is about finding how to follow passion and surf it and let it take you different places, and that you don't have to be stuck in one place. If what I'm listening to from you is if AI comes and takes over 3D modeling and simulation in 5 years' time, you'll just move on to the next thing, just like you already have, which I also think is very useful. That learning how to learn.
I don't.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, like I don't see myself working here for a long period of time, because at least personally, I don't like just doing one thing. I've always been interested in many different things. And I'm not sure that's just my personality or if other people are generally like that but are limited. But I quite like doing different things. And although this job is pretty good at filling that, because like I said, not just the 3D modeling, but also like the simulation and the nesting. And I'm learning about the machines and how they work, the laser cutting machine and the bending machine. And I would like to get to the point where I can like be competent enough to also use them. And that's also great experience for other job opportunities if I like to go do that. But I most probably won't spend a big portion of my life working here. I think I'll most likely go off and try something else.
Well, that's got to show us your tattoo then, because now you've really zoomed in on that concept. Let's see your tattoo.
So I got this tattoo from a YouTube channel called Yes Theory. I don't know if you can see it very well, or maybe there.
Not totally clear, but you can tell us what it says.
It says "Seek discomfort."
Seek discomfort.
Seek discomfort. Which is a slogan they sort of got because their sort of motto is to get out of your comfort zone. And if you always stay in your comfort zone, then you never grow. And people are scared to get out of the comfort zone because obviously it is comfortable. You know, you don't want to go out of it. But then you just stay in the same place. You don't try new things and you don't grow. And that's why I really like the motto, seek discomfort, because it pushes you to try new things, see what you like, and pursue them. Yeah.
So there's one more thing that I'd love to talk about. Because one of the other things that parents panic about, apart from what will my kid do if they don't get like a formal school leaving certificate, because the diploma, obviously, in South Africa, it's an international EUDEC diploma. It's nothing like the local matric. But the other thing people panic about is reading. Because, of course, in the mainstream, you have to be reading by 6. And if you're not reading by 8, there's a serious problem. How old were you when your reading really got going?
So I couldn't properly read out until I was like maybe 9 or 10. It wasn't really something that I like really was interested in. I was just playing and having fun outside at that time, and I didn't really have a need for it. But it was sort of around then when I got interested in games, and you kind of need to read to play most games. So I then sort of got more interested in and asked my mom to help me with like learning it. And we also had a neighbor who helped me a bit as well. And I ended up sort of reading like little books, like short stories, kids books. And then which also got me more interested in reading. I ended up reading like quite a few books after that because I sort of quite enjoyed reading. And basically that's it.
Great. Yeah, that's obviously before we founded Riverstone. So how many days in your life have you spent in a school uniform?
I've never been in a school uniform. I think I've maybe been in the school grounds like maybe 3 times in my life.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Because I think that's a beautiful story and I can't wait to share it.
Cool. I think the important thing to remember is that people worry too much about their kids and how they're going to turn out, if they're going to manage, and those type of things. And that stress not only carries over to your kid, but it's not needed when when everybody has their unique sort of selves and their unique interests, and when they're allowed to do those things and to explore it, then they will become the best version of themselves because it's who they are.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.